All right, we sit down with South Carolina Director of Player Personnel and Recruiting, Darren Uscher, to talk about all things South Carolina recruiting, and so much more as we talk about the offseason going into an exciting 2025 season. We go behind the scenes with Darren Uscher. Locked on Gamecock starts right now.
You are Locked On Gamecocks, your daily podcast on the South Carolina Gamecocks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, guys? Welcome into Locked On Gamecocks. I'm your host, Chris Marler. It is Friday, and I hope all of you are having a fantastic into your weekend, start to the weekend. Thank you for making Locked On Gamecocks your first listen each and every day. Shout out to our everydayers. Remember, we're a free and available podcast wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now, today's episode is brought to you by our good friends at FanDuel. Make sure you are not missing out this weekend with Super Bowl 59 being here. There is no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5, and if you win, you will win $200 in free bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. All right, guys, we have working internet because I'm not in Columbia right now, which means we now have the capability of bringing on a very special guest. It's our first interview of 2025, Darren Uscher. I'm pronouncing this correct, right? I'm one
right.
for one.
Yep.
Okay. I practiced all night last. I was like, I got to make sure I don't mess this up. The amount of times I mess up players' names is unbelievable. But Darren Uscher, make sure I don't mess this up. The Director of Player Personnel and Recruiting.
That's right.
Dude, I didn't know this was even an actual role in athletic departments and like football programs until like 2 or 3 years ago. And it's like, it's gone everywhere.
Yeah, it's really kind of exploded, and everyone sort of has a different name, title for it, all that. Yeah. You know, there's some HR things at different schools, but like a general manager type role, it's all sort of the same type of thing.
Yeah, good deal, man. Well, listen, we appreciate you coming on. I was going to say, because like you said, like I know there's general managers. There's also like just whatever fun little LinkedIn titles people have given each other at different schools. Walk us through what your job is to an extent, and then also tell us, since you handle so much of the recruiting and planning and roster management, tell us how much you're looking forward to your next day off in 2029.
Well, first of all, appreciate you having me on. I've listened to your show a long time, so when I get the chance, so great job. Kudos to you. Thanks, on that. Yeah, no, it's been great. Me coming back here to my alma mater is a blessing, and it's been awesome. I came in at a crazy time, right? Almost like 3/4 of the way, you could say, through a recruiting cycle. A lot of the work you've done in the summertime on OVs and coming in July, it was not ideal, but it just, it was what it was. Yeah. But for me, it's a lot of different things. Basically, I have sort of just 4 core principles on myself that I've developed over time from being at different places. And it's organization, communication, identification, and evaluation. Right. I think in any role, in any job, you have to be organized, and especially in a role like this, and where you're evaluating talent, you're scouting talent, you're handling relationships, kids on visits, and then with the added piece of NIL that we've introduced into college athletics, if you're not organized, things can get out of whack pretty quickly, right? And then the communication, we always say over communicate from every sort of department that we have in the building here. With our coaching staff, with our personnel department, with our on-campus recruiting department, with our athletic training department, everything, right? Communication is key. And then obviously the piece that, is super, super important is the identification and evaluation piece.
Right.
And I think, if you're doing those last 2 things at a high level, you're in the conversation at the end of the year to sign a good recruiting class, but also to springboard your program forward into the next season. And I really feel like this is a piece in which gets overlooked nowadays with a lot of money involved and things like that. Yes, there's lots of money involved and things like that, but there's also you still need to be able to find the right ones.
Right.
So you can assign a value to somebody, but if they don't fit your program and your culture and what you're looking for at that position, it's not going to go so well for you. So that's great that you got this highly ranked, player X, and you gave him X amount of dollars. But if you didn't evaluate him correctly, it's not going to go so well for you. And no one's perfect at that, but you just got to be right more times than you are wrong.
Yeah.
If it was an exact science, I think I'd be a billionaire, and I wouldn't have a job. So you just you got to stick to your guns and trust your gut. And we have a term, and I always say, our eyes, our ears. So whatever you're hearing about somebody, trust that you're hearing that information correctly. Be on the same page as a staff, and kind of move forward. But there's a lot that goes into it. I would say no one day is alike the next. And it really is, like you said, it's a 247, 365 job. Your phone's never off, right? And there's always something going on, whether it's, somebody on your team, somebody in the class of 25 that we just signed, whether it's a 26 recruit, a 2027 recruit, an agent. There's always something going on.
Yeah, there's agents now. Just on top of everything, there's agents now, which is super fun.
Yeah, and I would say that's probably a piece that takes up most of my time.
Really?
I would say it's probably not as much so right now, but I would say in the November, December, January, it was more 70-30 agents to actual football type of stuff. So you're constantly communicating with them, and they're trying to do a job too, right? They're hired for a reason. So maintaining relationships with those guys and communicating with those guys too, because you want to be on the same page with them. They're representing their clients, whether they're on your team or not. And so you want everybody to be happy. At the same time, you can't please everybody. You have to also understand that as well. But hopefully you can come to a happy medium to where both parties, feel good about it, and then get ready to go play ball come fall.
It's so wild that is not only such a big part of this now, because like I think a lot of people look at it like NIL and they think, oh yeah, like a program coach, whatever, is going to hand whatever amount of money to this player. But it's like, no, we have agents. There's like a whole, it's professional sports, just like at a smaller level. And I cannot believe, because like in that scenario, when you have you, player, and agent, you're like, what you said is right. Like you want to make sure they're happy, the player's happy, everyone like gets a deal that works out for them. I feel like the only person in that scenario that's not usually looking out for the happiness or interest of like the other party is the agent, because they're working on behalf of just one person. That's the entire job. But anyway, so it's funny you brought that up with the November part, because the next question I was going to ask was Christmas Eve. I'm just sitting here. I had poured myself. I'm not going to tell you which number of Maker's Mark it was, but I'm just sitting there, and all of a sudden I see breaking news. LaNorris Sellers is going to I don't know what the phrasing on it, but like re-sign, stay with South Carolina, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And it was funny because we had just done a show on this like a week and a half prior to that. And I from sources like that I trust from like at Auburn, they were like, they're going after him. Like they are going to go after LaNorris Sellers. They're trying to get him. Here's the number. And I brought it up on the show, and people were like, they were pissed at the mere hint that other teams might want him. But a deal you were able to get done. And I think it's maybe I'm making too big a deal out of this, right? But it feels like South Carolina was really at the forefront of this whole, let's make sure we work these things out, and let's iron out the details of these, like basically what it's just a contract renewal. Mm-hmm. And we'll make sure we do that before the portal ever even opens, so we don't have to deal with all of that craziness after that. Like, I keep saying it. I don't think enough has been made about how good of a job you guys did getting ahead of that, because you don't hear that from other teams.
Right. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. That's something that I'm particularly proud of, and I know Coach Beamer and the staff is proud of. To me, if you want to be successful in this landscape of college football, right, you have to retain, you have to recruit, you have to develop. Those three things, right? So the first one of those three is retain. We knew what kind of talent we had in our roster, and kudos to everyone here before me and staff, members before me that, are other places now that did a really good job at recruiting and developing those guys.
Right.
So I think the key is retaining the talent that you have on your roster. In a day and age where we're not naive to where we have good players, people are going to want to come after them. It doesn't matter what type of level or school you're at. It doesn't say anything program. But it needs to be beneficial for both parties, like I said. So that was really one of my main focuses when I first got here in July, was just assessing the type level of talent that we had. We knew that we had the potential to be really good. And I think everybody in this building would have told you that we were going to have a really good season.
Everyone outside of the building was not in August. It's one of the most satisfying things to watch happen.
Yeah, and you can start to see it once you're in here, every day. And to me, I'm a huge culture guy. I use the term a lot, and that was one of the things I noticed right away in the first 2 weeks or so, was the culture that we had on this team and in this building that I think Coach Beamer's done a phenomenal job of establishing in a day and age where it's become so individualized through NIL and things like that. Hard to maintain a team culture and standards. And to me, that's why we were successful. That's why we went 5-7 and turned it around to 9-4. But also that comes with
after you were 3-3.
That's right. Yeah.
Coming off the Ole Miss loss and then the heartbreaker at Bama. That thing could have gone sideways quick.
Yeah, and that goes to the leadership that we have on this team that we had last year, and to the culture that Coach was able to instill in this team. But also, we're not naive enough to know that we had really good players as well. So you start to get a sense right through fall camp what guys are going to be. All right, and then you start putting a plan together. Had a little bit of a plan together. Obviously you don't know how it's going to go. You watch the first couple games, and here's what was unique for us this year. After 4 games, we had a bye week. So this was the first time in the history of college football that everyone had 2 bye weeks.
Yeah.
So wanted to use that to our advantage. So during that first bye week, I sat down, myself and Jeremy Smith at the Garnet Trust, and we just kind of looked at our roster and who was playing maybe above their potential that we originally thought, or playing really well. And we wanted to start to try to, hammer some details out to try to get that done, to keep those guys around, because we knew guys were going to come calling when it became November, like you just said.
Yeah.
So we started working on some of those deals during the first bye week. They really materialized during the second bye week, which was also unique to have, like I said, the second bye week. And then by that point in the season, you really knew who players were at that point, right? So I think the second bye week was right after Oklahoma, right before Texas A&M. So you had a real good idea of who a player was. They weren't really going to change, drastically who they were, even though LaNorris shot up like that even after those games. But for the most part, hey, this is a guy that we need to re-sign. So we started working with, certain guys, team of agents and representatives and things like that. And so by the time it got to the Clemson game and post-Clemson and, before the bowl game and things like that, we pretty much had deals done with almost our entire roster. We had a couple things bleed over, just, contractually here and there into at post-bowl season, but not many, many at all. And I think both parties appreciated that, meaning our players and their representatives and us, that we were proactive in that. What that also allowed us to do, and this was big picture that I wanted to think about, that sort of that 50,000-foot view. I think when you talk about what my job responsibility is, that's what it is. 50,000-foot view of the program every single day. And I'm never thinking about the season right now. Yes, I am, but my mind, I'm 2 to 3 years ahead. You have to forecast. And so I want
to tell us what happens.
What's that?
Is it tell us what happens?
Yeah, exactly.
In 2 to 3 years.
No, right? So, all right, I'm like, let's retain the guys that we got. All right, that's our. And once we do that, now we can go out, and this portal is going to open up here soon, right? And this is bowl game now. If we know what we have on our roster and we've taken care of those guys, now we can go out and supplement our needs through the portal, right? And we know what we're going to sign in our signing class. All right, we did a good job there. The focus was length and speed, but they're also young guys as well, so you don't ever want to rely on a 17 or 18-year-old to come in. Yes, can some of them do it? Absolutely, but you don't always want to rely on that.
Right.
So to me, we retain our needs that we wanted, our guys that we needed, and for this next year, and then that gave us an idea of where we needed to go plug and play at certain positions in the portal, and that's why we're very sort of methodical in our approach in the portal. So we went out and supplement our needs. I don't think you should ever rely on the portal every single year to rehaul your roster. I know some teams do. That's their prerogative. That's just not necessarily my philosophy, and I think Coach Beamer agrees with that. You don't want to turn over your roster every single year. That's just sustainable. Also, from a culture standpoint, we've got a really strong culture. So we were very particular about the types of players and individuals that we brought in here, and some we moved on from. And I think that's important too. It's okay to move on from somebody. That's why, you bring them on a visit. And if it's not a match.
You got a text from me when I overreacted to somebody that we're not going to mention who it was, but I was like, what happened here? I thought this guy was going to be awesome. You're like, we're fine. We got everything under control here.
Yeah. You just got to be confident in your approach, and like I said, our eyes, our ears, we trust what we hear, and that's the most important thing. And I think, if you do that, you're going to have a roster like we have right now. The guys are working out right now that are really close knit, which is really important. So when you're in those games in the fourth quarter in Williams-Brice and you're down to Missouri, you come back in the fourth quarter, and so that stuff's important. I think that's something that is hard sometimes for fans or people outside the building to necessarily understand. But to me, I think that culture and that team camaraderie is ultra important, ultra important. It doesn't just happen on game day, right? It starts now. All right. It's, it's February 7th. And we're already doing those things to come together as a team. So when it comes to the fall, we can overcome some adversity when it strikes.
I tell you what, man, this is just, I'm so glad we're finally able to do this, because it's like, it's all just so fascinating to me. Like just the way like that South Carolina, the staff, everyone involved has gone about this. And like, you could see it happening, but there's always like, I'm not inside the building. So like, I this is just me speculating, but I mean, I sent you the questions earlier today, and we're like, it's the same page. Like the very first priority, it felt like the way you guys have built this roster and the program is retention. Like, and what it says to me more than anything is, one, you're showing the people you already have brought in here that like you value them, you want to like try to develop them. You haven't had a lot of misses from the portal, man. They've done an incredible job of identifying talent, evaluating it, and then developing it. And you look at some of the guys they brought in each year, like there just hasn't been a guy that has been a horrible miss, right? Like, and that's not the case at almost every single school, especially when you just open the floodgates and you let everyone in. Like covering this thing for like my main job over in Baton Rouge and having to deal with stuff with Ole Miss and LSU constantly. I mean, their entire philosophy is we're just going to go out and get as many guys as possible. And I think part of the reason why is because they're more developed, they're more, they're veterans, but it's also because they don't want to like spend a bunch of money to like the high school recruits in case they end up transferring anyway. But it's like you're playing whack-a-mole. Like you just can't ever stay on top of everything, because like if you go about it from like a reactionary standpoint instead of what you guys are doing, which is building this thing from the outside in, from the inside out, and like keeping them in house, like Coach Beamer saying they're not going to bring anyone else in, they're going to wait till April. It all just speaks so like more than anything that the confidence that he has and the team has and the program has in themselves, no matter what is being said on the outside, because it's, as you know, there's not a ton of sunshine and rainbows and like super optimistic people about South Carolina year in, year out for whatever reason.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think, that comes to ultimately that's Coach Beamer, right? And him being a leader and his philosophy trickling on down to us. And I think what, I've been in a bunch of places, what he does a phenomenal job of is letting us be ourselves and trusting in us to do our jobs. And so when you have that confidence from your leader, it allows you to operate in a way in which you're confident about the decisions that you make, right? But at the same time, everyone is on the same page with decisions. And if there is a dispute, we sit down and we talk about it, right? It's not like it lingers on or you find out somewhere else. We sit and we have tough conversations, and that's what a great organizations do. And they're not negative. That's positive. I think you're never going to always agree with somebody, but if you can sit down, you can hash it out, you can agree upon, all right, this kid does fit, or, hey, he may be deficient in this area. Are we okay with up with X to get Y out of it, right? So, and there's never been a visit with a portal kid or a high school kid that we've brought in that we haven't talked about afterwards as a staff, not
Right.
just myself and coach and the position coach. Like, we actively sit down as a staff in our staff room and talk about every single prospect, whether it's portal, high school, that comes on our campus to see if they would fit. And it's not just coaching staff, it's everybody involved in this program. I think that is key. That is something that I love about this program that necessarily I haven't seen at other places. That doesn't mean it's not right. It's just how coach likes to do it. And I love it. Like, I mean, we will ask, our nutritionist how, player X was with him, just those types of things. And it's really like an NFL approach if you think about it. The NFL, the scouts in the NFL, I've got a lot of buddies. They're more like private investigators now than anything. They're trying to find, hey, is my owner okay giving this player, tens of millions of dollars, and is he going to handle that well? So you're very careful. And the good organizations do a really good job of that.
Yeah, not the Browns.
So are we? Yeah. Are we okay with bringing somebody into our program that fits those things? Because, okay, I keep going back to this. When it is the fourth quarter and we are down, is that person going to sulk? Are they going to blame, complain, and defend? Are they going to, be a negative person on the sideline, or are they going to build somebody up, right? And so it's hard to see those things now, maybe in December, January, and February. But I'm telling you, after being in this for, about 15 years now, those things show up when it counts on Saturdays in the fall.
Yeah, man. Listen, this is my fault. We were like 12 minutes past when I should have done a quick little ad read. So bear with me. Give me 1 second. When we come back, we're going to obviously keep talking about this. I want to hear some like recruiting D-Day stories and things like that. And then we'll also have some more laid back and casual fun stuff as well. So we'll be right back right after this message. Before, how do I take you out of here? Don't go anywhere, Darren. You're coming back. Before we move on to the next segment, I want to tell you about our friends at FanDuel. Now, listen, you guys have heard me talk about FanDuel and all the amazing Super Bowl prop bets that they have available at your convenience. So Super Bowl 59 is on Sunday. One game, two teams, endless possibilities, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get on the action with live betting all game long. You can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. Guys, I looked at this last night because we were going to do a prop bet episode on a different show that I do. And it's my favorite show we do every year because it's fascinating how many prop bets there are. There are 87 prop bets you could make just that involve Taylor Swift alone. There are 73 you could make with the broadcast. When we come back, I will tell you the lock of the year that involves the broadcast. But before we do that, I want to remind you, just download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59. All right, so we're back. We had to pay the bills here for a second. So again, just all of it is just so fascinating, like the way that you guys have gone about this. and like, I love the fact that like the retention is such a primary focus. It is also interesting, like just the you've been at Oregon with Dan Lanning and obviously at Boise State for such a long time with Brian Harsin, and then 2 years somewhere else that we don't have to mention. And just like you've been all over the place, right? Like, so being back, I always say this, I always feel like having the opportunity to coach like your alma mater or like the school that you grew up that like, cheering for, bleeding for, whatever, it always just means, I hate to use this cliche because the conference, but like it does mean more. And I feel like that's really where you hit a sweet spot of like success and passion, all that kind of stuff. Wednesday was signing day, technically. For old people like me, Wednesday was like a national holiday. Every single first Wednesday of February. It was my favorite thing. And there's just so many ridiculous stories, whether it be like recruiting stories in general, but also signing day. I think it was like Alex Collins, the running back from Miami who went to Arkansas. and he's at his press conference to sign, and his mom stole his NLI and then drove off with it for 2 hours. Like, give me one, like, either craziest recruiting story or craziest signing day story you had to suffer through.
That's a great question. So I know a lot of your listeners love the name Brian Harsin. When we were at Boise State, we termed the night before signing day shenanigans. So shenanigans occur. It's just a nice politically correct term for things that happen late into the evening. When we were at Boise, obviously, we were a group of 5 school, and I think we did a really good job of identifying. It goes back to what I said earlier, and a lot of those philosophies I got from Coach Harsin and Coach Peterson, and all those culture things. But a lot of teams would come after our players because they had Power 4, Power 5, whatever you want to call it at that point, offers. So they would try to come in late at night and offer this, that, and the third. But here, this was in December. Particular player, I won't mention the name. I was on the phone with him until about 2 or 3 in the morning, trying to hold off a coach that maybe is famous for playing in the NFL and is now a head coach at a school somewhere. So just it just goes late into the night, and hey, that's fair game. All's fair in love and war, right? I mean, so if you really, that's about a prospect, it means your player is wanted, but the hay's never in the barn, right? Until they sign on that dotted line, or now it's all DocuSign, all those things. So, it's it is what it is. I never sleep the night before signing day. Shenanigans are bound to occur. So now in year 15 or whatever it is, I lost count. You just anticipate those are already going to happen. So I was ready. I anticipated more, but honestly, kudos to our staff for having those strong relationships. And usually you try to say if you're not on the phone with them, somebody else is, right? Even if they're committed to you and you feel good about it, just check in with them. But this particular player, I just stayed on the phone with from about 2 to 3:15-ish. Before they decided to fall asleep and go to bed, and they ended up ultimately signing with us. But it wasn't for a lack of effort from another team. And in this NIL era, there are a lot of promises being thrown at kids, especially the last minute. Whether it's legal or not.
It's not.
Not by us, but by other people, and not even saying that they would come through with those promises, but all in the case of trying to get them to click and sign with somebody else the next day. And the way in which sign now is unique to where they basically get an email from DocuSign, they sign it, and it's done. If they're under the age of 21, it gets sent to their parent to sign as well. So there can be a holdup sometimes in the parent signing. And then if you're a highly recruited prospect, you're going to get about 10 to 15 of these emails, right? Well, we had somebody, and we're very clear, and Jessica Jackson and her staff do a phenomenal job of walking guys through with a little video and instructions and all that. But at the end of the day, they're still human, and human error occurs, right? Especially with stuff with technologies involved. And you could open up a document from another school and click sign, and it's a done deal. So we had a particular prospect almost sign with another school by accident, not for a lack of us planning or anything like that. Just opened up the email and thought we were going to be the only email they got, right? So they saw it. I said, "I'm me." So let me see it.
I need to see it. It had to be designed that way on purpose.
Yeah, and I saw a little logo that was not ours, and I said, "Don't sign that. Don't click on that one." So, just things
sadly
like
enough,
that.
that's how Florida State got their entire roster this year.
No comment on that, But yeah, just things like that, shenanigans as we call it. And shout out to Coach. I'm sure your listeners love that name. So
yeah, my girlfriend in the other room definitely does. I'll tell you that. All right, let's wrap this up here. Again, thank you so much for coming on. Let's do. I'm going through my notes here because you've covered stuff even before I was gonna ask it. I don't really want to say anything big picture wise. Like, well, I tell you what, just in one sentence or paragraph, like how would you? What changes do you think need to happen in college football and like the landscape of everything that's changing and like all that, whether it's a change of the calendar or whatever, just to make your job easier, but also to benefit the school. Like this story you just said about having to save on the phone till 3:00 in the morning, the amount of money I would have empty promised that kid just so I can go to bed. I mean, I would have promised that guy the world. But like, what is something you think is like the first immediate change that we need to make to get like college football back like on track to like a more sustainable and balanced and fair like across the entire landscape?
Yeah, I think we need a commissioner. And I know Josh Pate will want to probably do it, but it's not necessarily Josh Pate. I know I'm shouting out another show.
No, we love Josh Pate.
But yeah, no, that's my guy. But I think we do need a commissioner that understands and has been involved in not just the football aspect, but what goes on behind the scenes, right? So they have knowledge. The structure that we have in place now, those individuals might not necessarily kind of know what happens boots on the ground. And they're making rules that are affecting us, but they've never actually lived it. And that's hard to do. So I think that being
it's not.
they've
done it nonstop, man. Like it's such a good point. Like that's what I always say about like when Saban speaks up about it or somebody else. It's like you may not like that person, but there's no more experienced person than that. Like it's such a good point.
Yeah, and I've always kicked around. I think it should be co-commissioners, and I think it should be Saban and Chris Peterson. Those are two of the most respected coaches and two that have done it at different levels and at different styles. But they both are so well thought out in their process, and they want the game to be evolve the right way. And I think Chris Peterson got out at the right time because he foresaw all of this coming.
Yeah.
So he's very thoughtful in his intent in what he can forecast and see. And then Saban obviously doing it at such a high level for the amount of time that he did. I think there's not one person in college football that would say that that's not a person we need involved in our game at some highest level making for us. So yeah, that I think needs to occur. And then obviously the calendar is I don't think anybody in college football agrees with the calendar right now and how it is. And consistency, I think, needs to be big because it literally changes every single year. The rules change every single year. And, if you're a team that's playing in a big time bowl game or the college football playoff, you really don't rest. And I'm not saying we need a rest, but it's a lot. Especially with trying to retain your roster, talked about while preparing to win a game. I think what it's done is it's also minimized bowl games, and I don't like that. I mean, bowl games are a reward. They still should be really special, even if you don't make the playoff. But just how the calendar is set up, it's kind of minimized the impact of those games, and then just how we sign guys, the periods in which we do it. If we shorten them, I think we just need to have one, just go back to that. And then the transfer portal windows, I think we just need to have one and get it all over with. And so your roster is intact. And right now is when your team is lifting and bonding and doing all those things. And that's your team. That's your team going into fall. And so just eliminating multiple windows. And then the last thing that I know is the biggest hot button topic is some sort of cap. I know that's a lot easier said than done in terms of NIL and things like that. And but there also needs to be an enforcement arm that actually has teeth for programs that may want to do stuff outside of the cap or There needs to be a certain structure in place to make sure everyone's on a level playing field, because ultimately that's what it's all about. And I know we all want to see that. And let's let the games speak for themselves on the field, not in the offseason and things like that. So there's a lot I think that changed, but I think we're slowly chipping away at it.
Yeah, I agree with that. And also, like, Darren's obviously too good of a person to just outwardly say any of the teams operating outside the box. But I will also piggyback off that and say, if by chance you have a university that has a former alumni that's dating the fourth richest person in the world as a multi-billionaire, and he just wants to buy a 5-star quarterback for them at the very end of the recruiting cycle, like, that's the kind of stuff that I'm like, man, like, that kid was committed to LSU for forever. And that kind of stuff just kind of, it's one thing to swoop in last minute with, like, playing time or whatever promises, but $12 million is just crazy. So that was insane.
There needs to be some sort of structure. And I think, you don't want guys to choose a school based on money. Let's be honest. Right. And I mean, we've all, done, offered guys things for that because you were in that landscape. But, you want them to come to your school because they believe in your school. They want to play for your head coach, position coach. They love the university. We need to get back to that somehow.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, give me 2 minutes. We're going to say one quick message from our friends at PrizePicks, and then we're going to get you out of here on 2-minute drill. So stay tuned. We will be right back with more with Darren. Okay. Before we go into the final segment, I want to tell you about our friends at PrizePicks. You guys have heard me talk about them before. It is the easiest way to make sure you are capitalizing not only in a fun capacity on Saturdays and Sundays or whenever you're watching games, but also from a financial standpoint, because they could not make it easier with our friends at PrizePicks on getting in bets, making sure you're in on the action. You sign up, you get a $50 free bonus, no matter what. You don't even have to place a bet. You get $50 free by using the promo code LOCKEDONCollege. That's Locked On College, all one word, all capital letters. And here's the thing. All you have to do, you don't pick a winner or a loser. You just pick more or less over or under how many points, how many rebounds, assists, touchdowns, receiving yards, whatever your little heart desires. You can do that at PrizePicks. So make sure you head on over to PrizePicks today, start an account, get $50 free when you use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege, and then you can run your game the rest of the season, which is ending on Sunday, but we have a lot of basketball to talk about afterwards. So make sure you sign up there. All right, so we will continue with Darren next. We will be right back. All right. I'm getting blown up for my boss at my other job, so we'll wrap this up here in a second. Right. Thank you once again for coming on here, man. This has been awesome. Really enjoyed it. We're going to get you out of here on a segment called 2-minute drill, and this is from like an old school, like when I was in back at like Saturday Down South when we would do the SDS podcast. It was a staple for us. We had a lot of fun with it. So We're gonna dust this off, and you're gonna be the first one to do it in like 2 years.
Roll.
All right, here we go. So just 2 minutes on the clock, rapid fire answers. 1, 2, 3. Here we go. What's your go-to Chick-fil-A order?
Nuggets.
Okay, I like that. Favorite part about being back in the South instead of Idaho or just that constant rainstorm that's Oregon?
Southern hospitality.
There you go. I like that. Bucket list concert.
Chris Stapleton.
Okay. All right. I thought you were about to say, you said the first 2 letters. I thought you were going to say Creed, which would have been the right answer. Favorite Creed song. And if you say you don't have one, we're going to end this interview right now.
Absolutely. It's higher, of course.
There you go. Love it. Worst. Well, actually, we'll save that one. On a scale of 1 to ghost peppers, how intense is Sean Elliott? Oh, no. Did we freeze in 2-minute drill? Oh. All right, not an ideal start to the 2-minute drill. It says we had some technical difficulties. We're back in it. We're back. Just Patrick Mahomes. We're just gifted a free first down on a flag, a phantom flag. We're back at it. Okay, where you paused. On a scale of 1 to ghost peppers, how intense is Sean Elliott?
Is ghost pepper the hottest pepper?
I have no idea.
If it is, then yeah, a ghost pepper. He's intense.
He's awesome. That guy's like, we had him on a podcast a couple years ago after they beat Tennessee, and we're doing the interview with him. And then at the very end of it, we find out he had just been eating an ice cream cone the whole time. It was like one of the most bizarre, hilarious things.
Not surprised by that
intense.
one bit. Not surprised by that one bit. He's the best.
No. Okay, back to it. You already said favorite Creed song. Bucket list concerts are done. Favorite non-USC or SEC campus or stadium?
Ooh, the real Death Valley in LSU. It's fun to play there at night.
Good answer. Yeah. It's not fun for a lot of people. That's going to be a night game almost certainly this year for Carolina too.
And by the way, I don't know if you caught the real Death Valley.
Yeah.
Is in
there is one real one.
That's right.
Okay, let's see here. One word to describe. I'm gonna say a name. You tell me the first word that comes to mind. Okay, it could be anything. Just mind melt. Sandstorm.
Incredible.
The SEC.
Means more. Just means more.
It's more than one word, Darren, but we'll let it slide. And I only say those two things to set you up for this one. First thing that comes to mind, Brett Bielema.
Football coach.
That's different than my answer, which is Fat Lane Kiffin, but we love him anyway. Following that up with worst SEC fans, I understand you probably are going to sit this one out.
Yeah, I'm going to defer to you on that.
It's Tennessee. And it's not even close. For sure. What is your biggest pet peeve?
When people walk slow in front of me, I got places to go and things to do.
That's fair. Mine's when people drink Gatorade and think it's healthy. It's just, I don't know why it bothers me so much.
A lot of sugar.
It's like really bad for your teeth, by the way. It's like 11 times worse than so. We'll get into it another day. I'm not doing 2-minute drill very well. One word to describe the vibes in the locker room, weight room, off-season workouts right now.
Immaculate.
Like that. Okay. And last but not least, we're going to skip the favorite Disney.
Immaculate and hungry words. Immaculate and hungry. I
like that. I think the audience will like that too. We're going to skip the favorite Disney movie and princess for the next time you come on, because I'm going to leave that there for you. We're going to close with this. One bold prediction for the 2025 Carolina season.
We will have more sack.
No.
I could.
Kind of, yeah. You cut out at sacks.
Am I still there?
Kind of. I'm on the edge of my seat here.
All right. Sorry about that. We had 41 sacks last year. We're going to get more than 41 sacks this next season.
I love that. Side note, just, take this with a grain of salt because it's just me saying it. Let's also give up less. That would be something that I think all of us love to see as well. But dude, thank you so much I know you're a big O-line guy. Thank you so much for coming on. We'll have to do this again at some point during the off season. I think you told me you have a couple days of like downtime. Go enjoy them. And
no, absolutely. Got a couple things to finish up here, but appreciate you having me on. Appreciate all you do. Fan of the pod. So keep up the great work.
All right. Thanks, brother. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Take care.